Morning, everybody. Going through this EM for breakfast here. Tell you what I'm kind of getting into. Just started this a little bit yesterday afternoon. First thing I went through, started with the fuse panel on here, if you want to call it a fuse panel. This is what was in there originally. You can see a couple of these. They're the blades that hold the fuse. They were tired. You know, that fuse there is never going to be snug. It was jostling around in there, not making good connection. And that is, if you can read that there, that's the line fuse. So that's the fuse for the entire game. So the game won't really reliably turn on and stay on without that fuse working. The other thing was the fuses were overfused. I mean, I act like it's no big deal. It is a big deal. You really shouldn't do it, but it's not a big deal from the standpoint almost every game I get has the wrong fuses in it. So from that standpoint, it's no big deal at all. So I got that in there, put the new fuses in there, and it started trying to boot up. So the next thing is, I pull the whole cabinet board out there. It does two things for me. I can get in here and see all the switches a lot better. And again, just so you kind of see what I'm looking at. Somebody asked me yesterday, they dropped off a Captain Fantastic, how do you fix these things? It's just like, just like eating an elephant, one switch at a time. So every one of these switches, when I press this relay, press that armature there, every one of those needs to change state. If it's open, it needs to close. If it's closed, it needs to open. And make sure every single one of these switches are doing that, and then clean them also. Just get a little kind of a soft file and give them a quick file. So every one of these switches go through that. The other thing this allows me to do is there was a major house mouse. It's full-on Love Shack in the bottom of this game, so I got that out of there. So, you see mice in there. You always want to be looking out, especially with these cotton-covered wires. Here's one where the rats, or probably not rats, probably mice. Mice got to it. Get that fixed up, but I'll be on the lookout for other wires that get exposed. But anyway, this game's coming along. I think it's going to turn out pretty well. There's the play field over there. Here's a good example. There's the knocker on this game. It's got really, really hot, and that kind of behavior happens when the game's overfused, because instead of the fuse blowing, you use your knocker as a fuse, the coil on there. So it's much better to have the right fuse in the game and not overfuse them, because you get things like this. And this is ultimately can become dangerous. If nothing else, you'll smoke up your environment, but it's potentially fire causing. So keeping the right fuses in your game is a good deal. I mean, I act like it's a big deal. It is a big deal, but on the other hand, I know that it's commonplace. Most of these games I get, I say 90% of them have some wrong fuses in them. That's the first thing I always do, because I know when I'm working on them, I'll blow a fuse every now and then, because I'm testing things out, and usually things are broken when I'm messing with them. And when I go through it, I don't want to burn up coils. I'd rather blow fuses. So that's the first thing I do, is get the right fuses in there. So I encourage you all, if you're working on your own games, do the same. Oh, one more interesting thing here, just kind of a side note. This is the counter. So this game's got 13,000 plays on it, assuming this counter. That's probably a stock counter. But this switch that's going to it, well, this is probably the original switch. Somebody's taped it off, and they've added this orange wire. That is not a stock wire, because it's plastic or rubber coated wire there. All the rest of them are cotton. But anyway, it was set in there, in that hole there, and it works like that. But it's kind of, you can turn it on, you can turn it off, you can turn it on, just like that. Makes you wonder, just for instance, if this was sitting in your bar, and you own the bar, and you were taking 50% of the cut on your game, and you came across that, what might you think's going on with your operator? I don't know.